It's a systems approach that combines how you connect businesses on the ground with good markets, okay? That's the value chain. And then you've added to that the idea of what kind of wealth are you either creating or destroying in those economic processes.
Hi, my name is Jovan Ellis. I'm an interactive game designer from the Emergent Media Center at Champlain College. And today we'll be looking at WealthBuilders, a game commissioned by the Ford Foundation and Yellowwood Associates to work as a bit of a supplement to their WealthWorks Initiative. In this short walkthrough, we're going to look at the main ideas behind WealthBuilders as well as how it can really apply to you and the work you might be doing. Let's get started. Let's select Custom Game here. And first we select a region: Texas, Appalachia, or the Deep South. Each of these are regions that WealthWorks is actively working with. Once we pick one we like, it's time to select our companies. WealthBuilders is a game about negotiations. In the context of this game, you'll be working with an agricultural value chain. Now there are many, many different types of value chains, from health to energy to more. But for the purposes of this game, we'll just be looking at the food industry and agricultural value chains as a whole. So we'll have to select a producer, a manufacturer, a distributor, and a retailer. Each of these company categories has a few different companies you can select, from the small upstart Hannah's Orchard to the larger conglomerate of Jastog Farms. All of these companies have their own strengths and weaknesses, their own personalities, and their own capital attributes. But we'll get into that more a bit later. For now, let's pick some random companies that we might like. And then, let's select a difficulty. The difficulty you choose will influence how much wealth you'll start with, and a few other things in the game. But let's keep it easy. Years is another way of measuring difficulty. We'll select 2 for now, and keep in mind that the fewer years you have to solve the region's problems, the harder the game might be. Now in the center, this is your value chain. And over on the left, these are the wealths in your pool. These 7 different forms of wealth represent the economy in your particular region. So the fully functioning infrastructure of your value chain, monetary assets, the health and well-being of your employees and the people around you, the stock of knowledge and creativity, the environmental impact, the influence of your chain, and the trust and relationships. If any of these wealths hit 0, then you'll fail the game. What you want to do is correct your company's attributes. As you can see here, your companies have a set of attributes at the top, and they're all company specific. And you want to make these attributes produce a positive output instead of the negative ones they start with. Now let's click this progress bar on the right. The progress bar shows the sum of your company's capital attributes. Now this means that all of the companies in your value chain together have a +5 built attribute, but a -7 individual attribute. To get a better gauge on how this works, you'll want to get as many of these attributes as possible, producing at a high value. What this means is getting the sum of all your attributes to +10 or higher. That's one of the measures of success in WealthBuilders. The next measure of success is based on market demand. Every time you start WealthBuilders, you'll have a different market state. In this case, you have an ineffective market. There's no draw to your community. Market demand is broken up into 3 different parts, and to meet these different parts, you'll have to get the wealth in your pool to a certain amount. The first stage requires 200 built and 200 natural. Once you meet one of these requirements, you'll have succeeded in one part of the market demand and get closer to the end. The ultimate goal is to meet market demand entirely, and that, in conjunction with producing a high output in the community, is how you have a successful value chain in the market as a whole. But keep in mind, the only thing more important than building wealth in WealthBuilders is when to build it. So if you look here, social is very low, and if things were to continue on as they are, that might hit 0 before the years are up. So as a rule of thumb, let's work on the wealth that needs the most help. Here's how we negotiate. First, we select a company, in this case Jasdog Farms. Then we click on its attribute. Turns out that Jasdog Farms isn't that good at making friends. And then we click Resolve. Now, on the easiest difficulty of the game, the company that'll best help you out with your issue will flash. But how does it work normally? Now let's say that we're looking for which company to negotiate with. If we were to select Yearline International, your distributor, you'll see that Yearline focuses heavily on safety, as well as global international reach. DoubleTech focuses on the newest and smartest technology, as well as how it can manage finances better. And the Smart Grocer looks a lot more toward influence and finding rarer products than it does toward building connections. Now in this case, you'll want to look toward one of your support nodes. Support nodes are consistent regardless of which companies you have in your value chain. And while they might not be the best option for your company, sometimes they'll be the only option. So let's look at Uplink Associates. Seems that they focus on helping companies create new, optimized practices. They focus on trust and relationships, and they have a good financial focus as well. Let's hit negotiate. Uplink Associates has an option for you, but not only that, let's pay attention to this icon on the right over here. Negotiations can have a variety of different impacts. Some are on a smaller scale, helping only your company, while others affect the value chain at large. This is one of the best possible solutions for your company, and though it'll have a high cost taken away from your wealth pool, the impact that it'll have, bringing you into the positive, is definitely worth it. So let's accept. You'll see that a month moved forward, and if you hit continue, the different influences take effect now. What you want to do is meet market demand and try to get all of your attributes high before the 2 years that you selected in the beginning are up. That's the heart of WealthBuilders. Now let's try to meet these goals. Going back to the quarterly report, we can see that since we're doing okay in our wealth pool, we should try to meet this demand by building extra built wealth and natural. As you do better, the sizes of your companies increase as well. Looks like our built's in the clear. Let's focus on something else for now. It's important to note that our particular value chain has a very high intellectual output. And this only happened because we picked companies that are strong in looking at more creative, knowledgeable practices. To give you a bit of a hint, if you're looking for companies that can best work with you, pay attention to their logos. Sometimes their logos are a hint toward which attributes they can help with the most. But let's keep going. Now that the year is up, the quarterly report shows how well you're doing. You can also check the chart to see how well you've been doing across the entire year. And of course the graph shows the progression of your different forms of wealth. Social's been consistently going down. Maybe we should focus more attention in that regard. while intellectual is consistently high. Now look at that. This is called an attribute lock. Sometimes companies will only improve an attribute to a certain point before they refuse to improve it any further. It's common in the business world that companies will only be so flexible in terms of changing their practices, even for the sake of the value chain. If a company is giving you trouble, you can definitely switch to a different company within your chain. But since we've been together so far, we should keep pushing through together and see how well we can do, despite the attribute lock. Now if we check here, it looks like we have to get financial and social to a certain level to meet the market demand further. Oh, looks like an event's occurred. Events can have a variety of positive or negative impacts, and in this case, the latest innovations event has increased the intellectual wealth of all of your companies, and the political of some of the others. Events are a great way to change the tide of the game. And that's it. While we didn't completely meet the market demand, we did the best we could in the time that we had. On a larger scale, WealthBuilders tries to teach what working in a value chain really means. But even on a smaller scale, it's full of great business tips that can apply to almost any company.
It didn't make sense to come at you guys and the next generation with a book or a pamphlet. Don't you think a game's a little bit better?